Yo, Prime members, so check this out. We are here to talk about our favorite thing in the world, and that is Amazon Prime.
That's right. We all have different interests, but there's one thing that brings us together: Prime.
As members ourselves, we found ways to maximize our Prime benefits to get the most out of our passions.
From fast and free shipping, streaming of movies and music, and even exclusive deals and discounts, Prime has it all.
And what's great is that you can use all of these services to elevate your hobbies and interests.
Whether you're a bookworm, a fitness fanatic, or a gaming guru, Prime has something for everyone. I promise you that.
So go ahead, explore and indulge in all that Prime has to offer. We promise you won't be disappointed.
Time to get more out of whatever you're into. Prime. And that's that on that.
And he literally gets straight to it. He was like, I called you in here today because the Secretary of Defense has denied your package to delay your commissioning. So you won't be able to go play professional.
I knew it. I knew it. Okay, go ahead.
Like straight up, right? So like you know what I'm saying? Like I just remember just like staring out the window. I'm literally just sitting there like I couldn't say anything. Cause like you just heard the journey, right? You know what I mean? And you're finally at the top. Like you're feeling like everything's like sunshine and rainbows, like cool, like I done battled through the adversity or whatever, and then this happens.
What's up, everybody? You are now listening to the Success Playbook Podcast, where we talk about pop culture, life and career success, and of course, we're going to talk about who got dunked on the night before. I'm your host, Chanel S. Reynolds, and I've been in the sports industry for several years. My goal is to take what I've learned from years of dominating the sports industry as a Black woman to help my listeners defy the odds and level up in life and career. Now, let's dig into this week's episode.
Hey, what's up, everybody? You are listening to the Success Playbook Podcast. Listen, I am so excited about today's guest. I have none other than a former corner for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, y'all. Today we are talking to Cameron Kinley. Cameron, what's up?
Hey, what's going on? I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
Yo, we're excited to have you here. Thank you for making the time for us.
Oh, most definitely. Anytime. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, we're definitely looking forward to a great conversation with you here today. The first thing that we like to do with our guests is we like to play a little game. Now, we're going to play a game of this or that. Now, if you're not familiar with this or that, so I'm going to introduce two different topics. And with the swiftness, you have to make a choice of either this or that, and then you have to explain to us your answer. Does that make sense?
I got you. Let's do it.
All right. These are easy questions. Okay. Podcasts or books?
I'm going to go books.
Okay. What are you reading right now?
So right now I'm reading a book called The Happiness Advantage, and I'm also reading a book called The Referable Speaker. So The Happiness Advantage, long story short, Harvard business guy, he was like a teacher assistant in the first positive psychology class. And so it does research about like how happiness actually brings more success into your life, vice success bringing more happiness into your life. So it's very interesting so far. I'm only about halfway through, but I'm definitely enjoying that one.
That's amazing. I love the sound of that book. Okay.
Yeah, 10. I definitely recommend 10 out of 10. I definitely recommend that one.
Okay. All right. Hot cereal or cold cereal?
Is hot cereal oatmeal?
Yes.
I'm gonna go cold cereal.
Okay.
I'm gonna go hot cereal. I'm gonna go hot cereal.
Hot cereal. Okay.
Yeah.
That's rare. Okay.
I'm a big apples and cinnamon guy, so
all right.
I know a lot of people don't like it, but it is what it is.
The instant oats, or you do it up yourself?
Nah, I definitely get the instant.
Okay. Little pack.
Definitely get the little pack. Yeah, definitely get the little pack. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do you cook?
I do a little something.
Okay. A little something? What's your go-to meal to make?
Fried catfish and spaghetti.
Okay.
Spaghetti is a side. You know, I'm from the South, so that's like homegrown meal right there. But yeah, that's
a whole gourmet feast. Like that's not no little something.
It's a little something. You gotta come humble. You know what I'm saying? You come humble, expectations low. You know.
Okay. All right. So pull out your pens and papers. Number 1, come humble. All right. We are learning from Cameron already.
I promise you.
Awesome. So who are your teams? Who are your favorite sports teams?
That's a tough one. I'm a retired Dallas Cowboys fan.
Okay. What makes you retired?
Started caring about my blood pressure. Started caring about my blood pressure. So now I don't have a particular favorite NFL team. Now I just cheer for some of the guys that I know. NBA wise, I'm a LeBron guy, so wherever he go, I go. So I'm a Lakers fan right now. And then college, my youngest brother, he plays at Middle Tennessee State University. So I'm an MTSU fan, and then of course I cheer for Naval Academy, being a grad from there. So yeah.
Nice. Okay, you said your little brother is currently playing where?
Yeah, he is. He is. He's at Middle Tennessee State University. He's defensive end down there. Yeah, he's in his 5th year. He redshirted his freshman year. So
yeah. Okay. And did y'all make a pact when you were younger that y'all just gonna all be amazing athletes?
Yeah, it's a football family. My dad played college. My older brother played in the NFL. So it was just kind of in the blood. Like that's all we knew.
Competitive household.
That's all we knew. Nah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you for playing the game. Let's pivot into some of our questions.
Let's do it.
So tell us a little bit about who you are. So who is Cameron? Tell us about your childhood, where you grew up, where you're from, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee. I had 2 amazing parents growing up, 3 siblings. I had my older brother, Jonathan, older sister, Nia, and my younger brother, Richard. Me, Nia, and Richard are all 2 years apart. My older brother's birthday actually today. He just turned 31 today, so he's about, I guess, that's 7 years older than us. So he kind of was the leader of the household. And then once he went off, to my sister, and then me and my little brother was like my best friend. But yeah, I mean, grew up, 2 wonderful parents, raised me up in the church. Always did the most to provide for me and my siblings and just try to raise us the right way to be who we are today. So I owe a lot of my growth to them. They gave me a really strong foundation, and I just kind of took it and ran with it to try to pave my own way in life.
Nice. Would you say, like, cause I grew up in the church too. I'm still in the church. Would you say that has contributed to like some of who you are and your character?
Oh, 1,000%. 1,000%. I found my identity through God, and I mean, he's honestly the only reason I've been able to accomplish the things that I've accomplished, and he's also the reason I've been able to climb up from some of the failures that I've had. All my trust, all my guidance, it comes from him, and just trusting that he has a plan for my life. One of my favorite Bible verses is Jeremiah 29:11. It talks about, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, and plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope in the future." And that has kind of been my guiding verse since I was at the academy, and just always remembering that I may not always understand it, but things are happening for his plan. So I just pray for understanding so I can try to align the steps.
Love. That's awesome. I try to tell people God is the secret sauce. Like,
I'm trying to tell you, and my thing is, like, a lot of people, it's getting crazy, especially nowadays. We're in the virtual society, right? Like, even here, we're doing a podcast online, so it's like people are getting away from the church physically, right? They're not in that atmosphere anymore, and more people get their church from podcasts, YouTube videos, whatever it is. Like, you're getting to where you have a relationship that's on you, but like I feel like a lot of people are missing that community aspect of the church that we grew up in. And so you talk about a support system. So yeah, I had my parents, but also had like my church family who poured into my life spiritually, like all the way through, just believing in you, encouraging you. Like, that stuff goes a long way. And I think that's something we're definitely lacking. Like, if we had that more of a community sense within the church, I think a lot of people would appreciate it more.
Yeah, that's huge. Community is like, that's your support, right?
Not exactly. You're nothing without a community. Like, the people you surround yourself with, life is already hard. You don't need to go through it alone, right? So the faster that you can build a community to surround you with positivity and encouragement, to battle all the negativity that's already going on in this world, like, it helps you stay on your feet when you fall, that you have somebody there to pick you up immediately. So that's what the church has given me as well. That's
amazing. Love it. Okay. Did you always have a love for football?
1,000%. Well, so I mean, I don't know if I ever had a choice. I don't know if I ever had a choice. Like I said, so my dad played college football at MTSU, where my little brother is now, and so after he graduated, he started coaching like immediately. And so my older brother was the first one to experience having him as a coach. And then once I was like 4 or 5 years old, I mean, ever since I was a kid, like, there's pictures of me holding the football, like, tiny, like, helmet coming off my head, like 2 years old, 3 years old, football bigger than me. But like, yeah, as soon as I was able to play Little League football, I was out there. And it's funny, like, My first practice, I quit because I lost a race to one of my friends. I told my dad, I was like, yeah, I'm cool on this. Like, I'm too competitive. I'm like, yeah, I'm cool. Like, I'm not about to be out here failing and stuff. And my dad made me come back out there. And I just think back to, like, if he would have let me walk away from the game, I mean, I don't know who I'd be. Like, football played a huge role in my life. So, yeah, I mean, the love for the game, I love the game so much. One of my high school coaches said one time, he said, if you love the game, it'll love you back. And I mean, football has loved me back. It's provided me with so many opportunities off the field. And like I said, just the growth aspect. I owe a lot to football, and I think everybody should play. But of course, it's controversial. But
Yo, Prime members, so check this out. We are here to talk about our favorite thing in the world, and that is Amazon Prime.
That's right. We all have different interests, but there's one thing that brings us together: Prime.
As members ourselves, we found ways to maximize our Prime benefits to get the most out of our passions.
From fast and free shipping, streaming of movies and music, and even exclusive deals and discounts, Prime has it all.
And what's great is that you can use all of these services to elevate your hobbies and interests.
Whether you're a bookworm, a fitness fanatic, or a gaming guru, Prime has something for everyone. I promise you that.
So go ahead, explore and indulge in all that Prime has to offer. We promise you won't be disappointed.
Time to get more out of whatever you're into. Prime. And that's that on that.
It is what it is. I think football is the best sport there is out there.
Okay. All right. So football has shaped you into the person that you are today.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's kind of like you can see the book Identity, which I just finished and just released about 2 weeks ago. It kind of talks about it. And I mean, it talks about the journey, the overall journey of my football career, the highs, the lows, more lows than highs, and how I took those lessons on the field and applied them to my life off the field. And just ultimately, you just see how football develops me with my relationship with God, my relationship with my family, my community, like my purpose and my why. Like, you just see me molding over time throughout the book. And I mean, I wrote it honestly at one of the lowest times in my life. And I'm not trying to jump ahead too much, but it's like after I got released from the Buccaneers, I was kind of like, man, like, who am I? Right? Like, this is the first time in 18 years I'm not playing a game of football. I'm like, who am I? You know, I'm really questioning God, like, what's going on? And I started journaling, and then the journaling turned into me writing this book. And then as I reflected on the journey, I saw these lessons that I had learned along the way that some of them I hadn't paid attention to. But as I saw the lessons compile over time, I realized that it was the lessons and the journey that shaped me into who I am today. And it made me appreciate the way everything happened.
Yes, I love that. Okay, I'm going to dig a little bit more into that a little bit later.
All good.
But before we do that, I want to just take a step back, and I want to have you share with some of our listeners, like, your entire career, right? So this segment of our show is called Put Some Respect on My Name. So at this time, I want you, Cameron, just to walk us through some of those big moments in your career, some of your big highlights.
Yeah. So, I mean, coming out of high school, I was like a 2-star recruit. So I was looking at the Ivy League schools and the academy. So I decided to go to the academy. And honestly, like, the goal was always just to get to college and make sure my parents would have to pay for school. So once I got to college, I was like, whatever happens, happens. But I was too competitive for that. Like, had some success in high school, won a state championship my senior year. So kind of went into college feeling like the top dog. And obviously, everybody who plays college sports knows you're going to get humbled immediately. And so I come in as a freshman, and I make the travel squad my freshman year, and I get moved down to scout team midway through the season. And that was kind of like humbling moment number one, like, of my college career.
Let's take a step back. So you walk on campus, you think you're the big man, you think you're the hot shot, you 100%. Think you're stuck, and you got it all figured out. And the Lord said, I'm going to humble you real quick. You're about to get on this practice squad. Is that what it?
That's exactly what happened. And it's like, so I made from Memphis, right? So Navy, we play in the AAC. So my freshman year, we were playing Memphis in Memphis. And so I was like, I gotta make traveling rough. So I gotta be at that game. Like, family and stuff gonna be there. I gotta go. And so Navy's a little different from all the regular schools. Once you report to campus, you go to boot camp, right? Like, basic training, 4 weeks, no football. And so coming out of basic training, you're extremely rusty. Meanwhile, the rest of the guys, like the upperclassmen, they've just been training the whole summer. And so now you're competing against them coming straight out of basic training, trying to learn the plays, trying to get your body back underneath you, try to get your skills to where they need to be. And so being able to make the travel roster as a freshman at the academy is a huge deal. I say probably only like 60 something travel, 60 players travel, and we probably got like 140 on our roster, something like that, because we don't have a recruiting limit. And so that was step one, was getting on that travel roster. So once I did that, now I'm a freshman traveling. I think it was only like 4 of us traveling. So, I'm definitely feeling like, I'm helping, you feel me? Yeah, so Memphis game finally comes, get out there. I don't do good at all. Okay. Next week, I come into the coach's office, and he's like, "Yeah, we got to move you down to scout team. Like, we don't think you're ready."
Again?
No. This was the initial one.
This is the first time.
Yeah, this is what happened. Yeah.
It's like, wow, okay.
Yeah, no. It's halfway through the season, we're playing Memphis, and he's like, "Yeah, we don't think you're ready yet." And I remember after that meeting, I called my dad. Like I said, football, like, I just wanted to get to college. Like, whatever happened in college happened. I was like, Dad, I'm cool. Like, I really don't want to play ball no more. Like, I'm not about to be on the scout team. I just want a state championship, just make the travel roster. I experienced that D1 life a little bit. I'm like, the last thing I'm about to go do is start holding bags in practice. Like, that just wasn't my philosophy. And my dad was like, you're looking at it from the wrong perspective. He was like, you got to take what the coach told you and see that as an opportunity to grow. And that's kind of when I found the scripture, Jeremiah 29:11, because my dad had wrote me a letter in basic training, and it had that scripture in there, like first week of basic training. And so I went back to my room, read that letter, read the scripture. And that's when I realized, like, yes, God has the plans for you, but these plans aren't always going to be pretty. You know what I mean? You have to trust that it's to prosper you, not to harm you, to give you hope in the future. And so part of the plan is the preparation.
Can you say that again? Yes, God has a plan. Say that again.
Like, God has a plan for you, but you got to understand the plan ain't always going to be pretty. Like, it's the end goal, yes, is to prosper you, not to harm you, give you hope in the future, but he has to prepare you for the plan. Like, there's preparation in the plan. And I think a lot of people are missing out on that phase. And we crave this instant gratification. We want this instant success, this overnight success, but we want to skip out on the preparation. And because of that, a lot of people start questioning God. Like, I mean, me included, right? Like, I'm like, yo, God, what's going on? Like, where's this prospering? Where's this hope? You feel me? Where's the harvest and all that? And it's like, hold on, Cameron, I got to prepare you. Because if I don't prepare you, when you get there, you're going to lose it. I can give you the success now, but you're not going to have the character to be able to handle the success. And that's still, like, applicable down the road. I get there eventually, but, like, it was a lesson that God showed me my freshman year at the academy that ended up popping up again in my life 4 years later when I was with the Buccaneers. And I paid attention to the lesson, but I didn't really engulf it enough. You know what I mean? And now looking back, it's like, man, he tried to tell me. And so I read that scripture and I'm like, okay, Cameron, like, it's all good. It's part of the plan. Like, we're just going to work on growth. And I literally grind that off season, like I joined the yoga club to get more flexible. Like, I'm in there working out by myself in the indoor before practice in the mornings and stuff. Like, I'm getting after it. In that spring ball, I was able to get myself into the depth chart. And that next season, sophomore year, I finally found myself playing, like, not just special teams. I was playing in the game. And then I ended up starting my first game, like fourth game of the season against SMU. And that was crazy because I wasn't going until that week starting. And then the night before the game, I think the guy who was above me, he was dealing with like a hamstring injury or something. And Coach came to me, he was like, hey, you're starting tomorrow. And I'm like, oh, snap. Like, I played a little bit that season so far, but like not a lot. And we're playing SMU on ESPN2 the next day. And I just remember like calling my dad, calling my brothers, like, yo, like, I'm starting tomorrow, like national TV. And it was a solid, we ended up losing like by a 2-point conversion, but I played pretty solid. And I remember just having friends text me like pictures like, yo, I see you on ESPN, stuff like that. And it was just like amazing, right? Like, I felt like I reaped the harvest of all that hard work I went through, all the preparation I went through from getting cut on the scout team. But I still struggled a lot with my confidence my sophomore year. And so it was a bunch of highs and lows throughout the season, like got benched, played some more, got benched. So it was very inconsistent, and I didn't like that. And so that offseason, I really was just trying to work on my confidence and my mentality. And I ended up pledging Omega Psi Phi in that offseason. And honestly, I feel I contribute a lot of my growth to that. Just fortifying my mindset and whatnot, like being surrounded by people who were pushing me to be the best version of myself. And then we ended up getting a new defensive coaching staff. So it was a clean slate. And they came in and spring ball, I had the best spring ball of my life. And then going into my junior year, I locked down the starting role, and that's when I thought everything was going to be sunshine and rainbows. But yeah, I don't know. You want me to keep going?
Keep going.
Okay, cool. So boom, locked down the starting role my junior year. So new coaching staff and whatnot. The vibes are great. Like that year, honestly.
Wait, sorry. So we're at sophomore year.
We're junior now. Junior
year. Okay.
Yeah, junior year.
The fame happened. ESPN2 happened sophomore year.
Sophomore year. Yeah. Started playing a little bit more. Yeah, started playing a little bit more. Like, you know, getting a little adjusted, but still struggled a little bit with my confidence. And so junior year, so I should probably say sophomore year off the field, right? So with the inconsistency off the field, I was looking for ways to continue to like. My parents always emphasized being more than the football player. So like grades, community aspect, all that was always a thing. And so
why was that important for you to be well-rounded?
Because I mean, I just feel like they didn't want me to just value myself in one area, right? It's almost like they knew the game was temporary. And so if I only view myself as a football player, if I only develop myself as a football player, when it was time to stop playing football, it was going to be a real rough transition. And even though the transition was rough, but it could have been a lot rougher, you know? And they knew like I had more to offer than just being a football player. And that's the same thing they told my other brothers, and my sister plays sports too, but they always want us to be more than an athlete. And so my sophomore year, I ended up running for a class position at the academy. And it's funny, I was a class president in high school, but I was scared to run for class president at Navy because I really didn't know too many people other than my teammates. And so I was like, I'm not about to embarrass myself and lose. But after talking to my mom, she was like, you need to do it. But by the time I decided to do it, one of my boys was already running for president, and I didn't want to conflict voting, so I went for vice president. He ended up having to drop out of the race, which was what it was. And I ended up winning vice president. And then the president that had won, he had to drop down, and I ended up getting promoted to president. And then my mom was like, you see, what God has for you is for you. Like, you can't hesitate, and you got to go after those things. And I ended up being like the first football player to be class president at the academy since like at least 1990. Yeah. And the fifth African-American in school history. So that was pretty cool. It kind of gave me a confidence boost going into that next off season for football. So that's why like it's always important to be more. Go ahead.
So you said the first football player in years to be also
since like 1990 or something like that.
But also the first Black
fifth African American in school history.
Fifth African American in school history to be class president. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, It was a blessing. It was definitely a blessing. Just how things worked out, and like, I mean, even like vice president, I slid. The way it worked, it was like the preliminary election was like basically based off a campaign poster, and people picked their top 5, and then if you made it in top 5, you got to give a speech. I knew if I could give a speech, then I would have a good chance of swaying my votes. But I was nervous about the poster because I was like, I don't really know too many people. And so I slid in the 5th slot by like 10 votes or something like that. So I barely made it in. I was like, oh, snap. But then, yeah, I mean, the speech went really well. It was well received from my classmates. And the rest was history. I ended up winning by a landslide. And then, like I said, I ended up getting promoted to class president. So that was just a lesson to me, like, don't settle, don't settle because of fear. Like, if you truly have faith, like, go after it. Like, at worst, you'll learn a lesson, but you can't, like, God has something for you. And if you aim too low, you're going to miss out on what he really had for you. You're going to settle for less. So that was a big lesson for me there, to like, just continue to keep striving, chasing after things that I want. And so that gave me some confidence going into spring ball, locked down the role. And I mean, junior year was pretty like, that's honestly, between my senior year of high school and my junior year at the academy, like, those are my 2 favorite years of football. Like, we went 11-2, finished number 23 in the country, beat Army, won the CIC, played a bowl game in Memphis, in my hometown on New Year's Eve, beat Kansas State. Like, everything is like high flying at this point. Like, life is like upscale. Like, I'm making plays and stuff. Like, we were playing SMU on senior night, and James Prochet, he plays for the Ravens. It was like 4th and goal, and they tried to run a fade, and I was able to deflect the ball And it was just like, those are the plays you dream about when you're a corner. Like, you think about that all the time, making a game-winning deflection. So confidence was high going into my offseason before my senior year, and COVID happened. And so once COVID happened, like, I kind of had to go. We had to go home. We didn't have spring ball, and being home was good also because I got a lot of time with my family. And I just remember just like working out with my little brother, like training with him and some of the other kids I went to school with. And like the thought of the NFL started to pop into my mind a little bit then, because honestly, I hadn't, like, NFL, I wasn't really thinking about it. As a kid, of course, growing up, like, oh, I want to go to the NFL. Like, I saw my brother do it, like cool. But by the time I was in like high school, college, I was like, yeah, there's some other things I want to do in life. But that off season with COVID, just being home, it's like, man, like, I just had a good year. Like, it could happen, the possibilities there. Of course, it's a little different with the Naval Academy, some of the obligations, but I was like, if the opportunity presents itself, then I go after it. If not, like, I'll be fine. Like, I'm ready to transition, start my service. And so go through COVID. Finally, we get the call back to come to the academy. And I mean, we were supposed to open up with Notre Dame in Ireland, but of course they got canceled because of COVID. And our season, I mean, I felt like we had a pretty solid team. I knew we weren't going to be as good as we were last year. Like, that was the tie for the best season in Navy history, but I knew we had a chance to be pretty decent. But without spring ball, without really a summer workout program, I knew it was going to be a challenge. And so, I mean, my teammates, they elected me team captain heading into that year. I was named a finalist for the William V. Campbell Trophy, which is like the academic Heisman. And I was getting all these other watch lists. So, like, the accolades were starting to roll in now. Like, I was really starting to reap the fruit of all the hard work. Like, all of that, like, everything's coming into play. I'm like, man, this can really be my year. And so, first half of the season goes pretty solid. Like, I'm playing high and low. Like, some games are really good, some games are whatever. Like, decent play, having the best stats I've had since I've been at the academy, but I wanted more. And then halfway through the season, I think we were 3-3, 3-2, something like that. My position coach called me into his office. And I was like, okay. And this is my third position coach, by the way. I had one corner coach my freshman, sophomore year, had another corner coach my junior year. He left and went to UCLA. And then, so this was a new coach my senior year. And he was like real solid dude, like always kept it real. So when he called me into his office, I was like, okay, we're probably just about to catch it up about life, like talk about season, whatever. But then he called me in there and he was like, hey, I just want to call you in here. Like, we're going to go with a different look this week. I was like, oh, okay, what you mean? Like, we're going to run different coverages, different formation. He's like, no, you won't be starting. I was like, I'm thinking back to, like, immediately get the emotions that I had from my freshman year.
Yeah.
When I got moved to scout team, I'm like, because now I'm team captain, and I'm like, it's hard to lead when you're not setting an example. I've always been a guy who wants to lead by example. So now I'm like, I'm not about to be playing. Felt like I was having a good year, decent year, solid year. I'm in the running for this academic Heisman. Like, I'm thinking about a lot of different things, and it was another humbling moment. And that was one that was really tough to swallow. It was tougher than the freshman year, because freshman year I at least knew I had more seasons. But like, this was, this is it. Like, this is my senior year. I've been playing football since I was 5. Like, we're talking about like an 18-year journey, 17-year journey at that time or whatever. And I'm like, yo, it's really about to go down like this. And I remember that game we were playing Houston, and I didn't start, and I probably got in like probably second quarter or something like that. And like first play in, I got a pass deflection or whatever. But I remember watching the TV copy of that game after the game, and they had zoomed in on me on the sideline, like when the defense went out. And it was like, they devoted like 30 seconds talking about how I'm not starting and stuff, like for the first time in like 18 days. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, dang, they just put me on blast. And I was hurt. Like, I was sick, and I was sick. And I was like, I literally Googled. I was like, scriptures for hard times. Because I'm not going to act like I know like the Bible at like the back of my hand. Like, I'm learning. I'm working on it, right? But at the time, like, I needed references. And so I Googled that, and I came across James chapter 1. And it talks about, honestly, like, whenever somebody struggles with adversity, like, this is my recommended passage. it says something along the lines of like, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, when you face trials of many times, because you know that trials produce perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work within you so that you can be complete, not lacking anything. And then you go down to verse 12 and it says, blessed is the one who perseveres on the trial, because having withstood the test, they're going to receive the crown of life that God has promised. And I read that and I'm like, whoa, like this man is saying, blessed is the person who goes through things. Like, consider it joy when you go through things. Like, look at it as something that's positive for you when you're going through something tough. And so here I was, like, a team captain, a guy who was getting all these accolades from the outside in, like, getting benched, right? And not being able to play, provide for my team like I wanted to. Like, honestly, just really, and it's COVID at the time, too. Like, we're constrained on campus. Like, we can't leave. So, like, life is, you know, it's the happiness level of life wasn't really high. Like, football was the only positive thing going on. And here I see James say, consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kind. And it kind of just switched my perspective up. Like, I'm not going to say it was easy, but I kind of swallowed my pride. And I was like, you know what? I'm still approach practice the same way. Like, I'm going to coach up the guys they put ahead of me. And so the season just continues to go on. And I don't really play too much more. Like, I play a little bit because of some injuries and stuff. And I just remember the Army-Navy game came, and that was the last game of the year. And
what's poppin', guys? It's Jay Jonah here from Blowing Smoke. If you're a fan of fun, insightful, and breakthrough conversations, then be sure to check out and subscribe to the Blowing Smoke podcast, a show that covers life experiences and firsthand testimonies from some of your biggest names in your favorite industries. And it's all brought to you exclusively right here by the Revolt Podcast Network, anchored in hip-hop, powered by creators.
And where'd you say that game was?
Army-Navy, my senior year, was at Army because of COVID.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was like what geographic location?
That is in New York.
New York. Okay.
West Point, New York. Yeah.
Okay.
And so
a couple of times it's been in Maryland though, right?
Yeah. So I mean, so sometimes it's in Philly, sometimes it's in Baltimore. Like like a couple of years ago, it was in like New York at the Jets. This year it's in Foxborough. So it changes. When I was there, we played in Philly 3 years though, and then we're gonna play in Philly again, but then COVID, so we had to go play at West Point. And so leading up to the game, like I'm doing these interviews on CNN and stuff. So like, you know, it's CBS Sports. It's crazy. Like knowing that I'm doing all this, like it's getting all this publicity, but I'm not about to play. I know that. They don't know that. They ask me questions about the game. I'm like, I know I'm not about to play. And so Army Navy is like the craziest college experience ever. Like 10 out of 10 recommend. And so, of course, I want to be Army. It hurts that I'm not being able to contribute. And the game, I mean, I think we ended up losing like 16-0 or something like that, 14-0. And I just remember I got in the last 3 plays. And at this point, the game was over. Army was literally just taking knees. And I remember just looking at the clock. And I'm looking at the clock and I'm watching the seconds tick. And to everybody else in the stands, like, they're probably like, you know, it means the game's about to be over. Army's about to win for, you know, the 3rd time in 4 years, whatever. But as I looked at those seconds off the clock, I'm thinking like my career, right? Like these are the last seconds ticking off my career at this point. Because, I mean, going into the year, I was like, yeah, my NFL chances had a chance. Now I'm like, I got benched as a senior. Like, yeah, that's kind of out the window. And so I'm watching those last seconds tick off the clock. It hits 0. And I just remember just like beamlining across the field, just like walking across the field. They don't even know like where I was walking. I wasn't walking off the field because we got to do the arm autos and all that. I'm literally just walking like numb. Like I don't really, not really seeing the Army fans celebrating. Like people got in a little fight out the game. Didn't really notice that. Like I'm literally like in a whole different zone, just thinking about like, is this really it? I was like 18 years dedicated to this game, and this is how it's supposed to end. And it just didn't feel right. Like it felt very incomplete. But I remember like one of my mentors called me after the game, and he's an agent. So he had been talking to me a little bit. He was like, you know, why didn't you play? I was like, you know, wasn't part of the game plan. He's like, okay, all good. Like it's time to start getting ready for the NFL. I'm like, man, what? Like, do you honestly think I have a shot? And he was like, well, if you run well, you test well in your pro day or whatever, like no way a team's not going to take a chance on you. I was like, yeah, whatever. Like I'm cool. Like I'm dealing with this last loss. Like I'm like, it's over. Like this is how everything ends. And I remember going home. Go ahead.
Even in the time when you felt doubt, you had somebody like believing in you, somebody really pushing you.
Community. You know what I mean? Like that's why you gotta have individuals like that, like community. Because it sparked it. While I wasn't really listening at the time, it still put the bug in my ear. Like, you know, I went home for Christmas and I'm working out with my brother and my dad or whatever in the garage, like we always do. And I'm just like, you know, like, what y'all think? You know, y'all think I can make it or whatever? And my dad's like, that's a regret he always had, was never trying. Like, you never know if you never try. Like, worst thing happened, you fail. Best thing happened, you succeed. And at that moment, like, I was just like, you know what? Like, I feel like God has something to show me. Like, truthfully, I felt it in my spirit, God has something to show me. And I didn't mean like that was to make it to the NFL.
Yeah.
I just feel like he had something, like, you know, it was a lesson somewhere in the journey. And so I declared for the draft, signed with the agent, just really embodying the faith over fear mindset. Like, I'm like, yo, I'm walking by faith. Like, I don't know what's about to happen. Like, not on anybody's radar, but something in me is telling me to go after this. So I'm just going to walk in faith. And signed with an agent, got invited to the College Gridiron Showcase, which was in Texas. And so COVID, like I said, COVID was going on still. So there wasn't really too many in-person events. So this was one of the few, and there was a lot of scouts there. And I remember the first night we check in, like, we're all in a room and they're coming back and calling people that scouts want to talk to. And I'm watching people go in and out, in and out, in and out. And I'm just sitting there. And then finally they come in one last time and they're like, hey, this is going to be last time. Like, if your name's not called, you just go to your room. And my name didn't get called. And I remember going to my room that night. And of course, you know, you could imagine when I declared for the draft, like, people were talking. Like, what is he doing? Like, what about, you know? And so, yeah, when that happened, I was like, maybe they're right. You know what I mean? Like, what am I thinking that I could go accomplish something like this? Like, it's over with, it's chalk. But I just kind of reignited my hope that night, like, just really, like, released a lot of emotions that night in that hotel room and just kind of regrounded myself, like, just trusting that God had something for me. And that next day, when we actually got on the field, I performed pretty well. And afterwards, I talked to a scout from the Chiefs. And it was just one scout, but it gave me the boost I needed to move forward. And then after that, I got invited to the Hula Bowl, which was like one of 2 in-person college all-star games that year. So I got in front of scouts again. And so confidence was starting to build. And then it was time to go back to the academy. And that was the wall. Like, I knew it was coming, but, like, I was, like, trying to avoid thinking about it. I was like, once I get to the academy, it's going to be a struggle. We can't leave campus. We have no facilities open to train. You know, when people train for their pro day, they're going to Florida, Texas, Cali. Like, this is all they're doing. Like, I had to go finish my degree, 1. And 2, I didn't have access to any of that. Like, we're talking nutrition. Like, my nutrition was not where it needed to be. Couldn't really get in the weight room like that. So me and one of my other teammates that was pursuing the NFL, like, we're training with each other. Our coach is sending us virtual workouts. We're recording the workouts and sending them to him, and then he's critiquing it through that. Like, we're lifting in, like, a abandoned shed with mats stacked on top of each other. We have one barbell, and we're, like, passing it over to each other. Like, this is how we're training. Yeah, like, I'm doing pull-ups on my shower. And so you just, like, you're thinking about it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, pull-ups on the shower rack. Like, you know, trying to get ready for the 225 rep test. And you're thinking about it, right? You're going through this. You're already an underdog, and this is how you're training. Yeah. And you're just trying to block out all the negativity, right? Like, people looking at us training out there every day, like, what are they doing? Like, they're not going to say it to our face, but they're going to say it to somebody. Somebody's going to come say it to us, like, oh, they're talking this and that, right? Like, they're almost looking at it like it's a joke, right? And I'm just like, God, like, you know, I'm trusting you. Like, something's in there. I'm not saying you're going to allow me to make it, but I'm like, something's in there. So I'm just going to keep pushing. And Navy they didn't want to host a pro day, partly because of COVID, but also because, like, you know, we didn't really have too many teams showing interest. So I had to go back home to Memphis to do my pro day. And Memphis had Kenneth Gainwell, who plays running back for the Eagles. So they had all 32 teams at their thing. And I showed out, God willing, you know, God, all honor to God for that. But I showed out. And after that pro day, I had like 16 teams talk to my agent. And at that moment, I was like, yeah, you know what I mean? He's 16.
Yeah, that's lit.
So at that moment, I was like, I got a shot. You know, like that's the first, honestly, like the real first light at the end of the tunnel I saw was after the Memphis Pro Day. I was like, I have a shot. And yeah, I mean, Navy ended up hosting a pro day after I went down there and did the pro day at Memphis, so participated there. It was just the Ravens there, but I was happy because my boy got a chance to test and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, draft day came, didn't get drafted. Was kind of emotional about that. Didn't really expect to get drafted, but at the same time, I still hurt because I held a little draft party. And I walked out the restaurant that I was at in DC, and I was walking down the street with my cousin.
Wait, hold on. Pause. Okay, so this is NFL draft day.
NFL draft day, yeah, day 3.
You have a party going on. You threw a party.
Yeah.
Because the expectation was that a team was going to call you. So you have your family and your friends all around.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I didn't know what was going to happen. But I was like, if it does happen, I got to have my village around me. You know what I'm saying? I was like, and I told him, I was like, look, I don't know if I'm going to get a phone call. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't come up here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't be mad at me if it doesn't happen. But like, I was like, if I do, I want y'all to be here. You know what I'm saying? Like, my family, my best friend, like some of my closest friends from the academy. I'm like, you know, people who I know really weren't going to be disappointed if I didn't get a call. You know, they're not going to look at me different or whatever. So, yeah, we're all in a restaurant in D.C. And, I mean, I'm cool. Like, 5th, 6th round, I'm cool. I'm like, cool, whatever. I'm not really expecting them. Once 7th round hit, I know teams start calling their free agents in the 7th round. So I hadn't gotten any calls. Agents hadn't texted me anything about any interest. I'm like, man, like, you know. And as we were getting to the last picks, like, I'm looking at my little brother, and I just start feeling like a disappointment. Because I always try to set the example for him because I want him to know it's possible, just like my older brother did it for me, and he let me know it's possible. So I wanted him to see the results of faith over fear and the hard work and everything. And that's when the tears started coming in a little bit. One of my friends gave me his sunglasses. I threw the sunglasses on. And then after the 7th pick, the last pick of the 7th round got announced, like, the tears just started falling. And my cousin, who's really like an uncle to me that lives in D.C., he kind of took me out. And we're walking down the street, and he's like just speaking words of encouragement to me. And he's like, you know, like, this isn't the end for you. Like, you've accomplished all this stuff, like, whatever. Like, you know, we always say, like, God, just help me understand. Like, let your will be done. Help me understand. By the time we got to the end of the street, I got a call from my agent, and he said that the Chiefs wanted to sign me. I was like,
wow.
You know what I mean? Like, really, we get to the end of the street, I'm crying, and my phone rang.
Listen, you taking me on an emotional roller coaster. I literally started to shed a tear. I was like, wow, his uncle took him out there and encouraged him. Okay.
Man, like, it's rough, right? Like, I'm crying. Like even some of my friends were crying in there because they could see like my emotions. Like, because some of my friends that I went to high school with were there that seen the whole journey. And we get to the end of the street, my phone ring is my agent. And he's like, hey, the Chiefs want to sign you. And he was like, they're only offering this much for the sign. I said, man, I don't care. Like, tell them I'm coming. And I just started like, you know, I'm yelling, like everybody runs out the restaurant. And then I get another call.
I was going to say, what was the reaction?
Yeah. So once I answered the call, like people had already started walking out, like to like see if I was all right. But then they could see like my excitement. It was like, what's going on? Like, I'm like, oh, we're going to the Chiefs. And then he called me back again. It was like, hey, the Bucs want to sign you. I was like, yeah, let's go to Tampa. Then just, you know, I was like, so my dad actually played college ball with the linebackers coach from the Bucs, who's actually now with the Ravens. So I was like, you know, I got, you know, some inside plug there a little bit. And I was like, I'd rather be in Florida. I'm not going to lie to you. It's just, and they just won Super Bowl. Like, Tom Brady was done. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to Tampa. And yeah, I mean, after that, like my friends, like, they kind of like lifted me up, you know, like the whole parade thing, whatever, like popping bottles of champagne. Like my mom right there embraced my mom, crying like my dad, you know, just like, man,
Cameron, life is really a movie.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? And it's gonna get crazier after this though. And I'm just like in that moment, like that's probably, it's like it was bigger than making it to the NFL right there. Like it was so much bigger than that because I think back to even like high school, being an underdog in high school, being undersized, but playing scout team my freshman year, losing my starting job my senior year, and jumping out on this limb of faith, like literally taking a leap of faith after my senior year to chase it. And they just see like the fruition of the hard work and blocking out the negativity, staying focused on what I felt like God was telling me, not listening to any outside noise. Like seeing the process work is why I'm so big on the preparation and trusting the process, because I've lived it, right? Like I this is not some fugazi thing that I talk about because it sounds good. Like I experienced it. And just being able to like have my parents like, you know, see that happen for their son. It was amazing for me. And so so that happened. And so now it was time for like rookie mini camp. But also at the same time, right, I'm at the Naval Academy, so I have a service commitment. So it's a policy that President Trump put into place the year before. So players had already used this policy from 2020. And it allows you to delay your commission so that you can go play football immediately if you graduate from the academy. And so once I declared for the draft, I reached out to the academy. It was like January of 2021. I said, hey, I'm looking to do this. Like, let's get the package started. Boom, 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 whatever. And they're like, we're going to wait on the package because, you know, they're like, we're not going to go through the trouble of submitting this package if you don't have a chance, basically, right? And so the package really requires to be submitted 90 days prior to graduation. But we submitted it after I got the call from the Buccaneers. We went through the package, and this is like 3 weeks before graduation. Well, it was probably about 27 days before graduation. Whatever. So we get the package submitted. I'm like, yo, like, is everything going to work out? And they're like, yeah, it's going to be fine, whatever. So cool. They fully endorsed it, sent it up to the Secretary of Defense. It has to get through like chain of commands and all that. So I'm like, cool. And so now I'm focused on rookie minicamp, right? I'm like, undrafted free agent. I still know I got a mountain to climb to make the team. Like, yeah, it's good. It's good to get to this point, but I'm like, I don't want to just be a guy that signed. Like, I'm trying to make the team. And so nerves were huge, like huge going into rookie minicamp. Like I was super nervous, like was really struggling, like whether I felt like I belonged or not. You know, I'm undrafted, like they got undrafted guys. And I remember that first night when I got down there, I'm in my hotel room and I'm just like looking at the ceiling. And I'm like, man, like just nervous. Like what am I gonna do? Like I gotta make a play. Like because rookie minicamp's real slow speed. But I was like, I gotta leave an impression so that they know, like, yo, I'm here to stay. And I was just battling a bunch of thoughts of insecurity. It was a negative voice in my head, just like kind of like trying to remind me of who I used to be. Like, oh, you lost your starting job. Oh, this and that. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Like you really just lucked up type, you know? Yeah. And then I got a text message from my little brother, and it was a journal entry that he wrote back in like January when I went to the Hula Bowl. And it said something along the lines of like, God, like Cameron's in Hawaii right now for the Hula Bowl, like give him the confidence and stuff to believe in himself. Like he has the tools to make it or whatever, but he's so hard on himself. Like he can do it. Like he can be great. He's writing, I can't remember the specific words off the top of my head right now, but this is his journal entry that he wrote in January. And he sent me a screenshot of it. Literally, I kid you not, he sent me a screenshot of it that night. Like as I'm sitting there battling these thoughts of insecurity, he sends me this message. And I just remember reading it and just like getting real emotional. And just like, I'm like, man, he believes in me. It's time for me to believe in myself too, right? And I get out there, right? You feel me? I get out there and I'm just like, I got to make a play. That's always been my thing. I'm like, once I make one play, like my confidence is there. And we're doing this 7-on-7. I'm going against Jalen Darden. He played at North Texas. He's with the Browns now. And he's cooking me. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, fast is like, he's short, but he's super quick, fast. And I'm like playing real off, like not really playing aggressive, like lack of confidence. And finally I was like, yeah, I got to get up there and press. And so I get up there to press, man. And he runs inside. He comes off the line, beats me off inside. But I knew all day, like when they were running that inside route, like they were kind of like running either breaking on a curl or breaking on a quick comeback, which is kind of like almost like curl too. So I stayed patient. And then once he broke down, I turned and the ball was coming and I got an interception. It was like a pick six. And like right then, like it flipped. And for the rest of minicamp, I was making plays. And for me, I knew, because playing football at the Naval Academy, we don't have access to all the resources that some of these other schools have access to. Like, and we're taking full days of class. Like it's a whole different experience. Like you're balancing academics, military, and football. Like football is almost like the third thing there versus these D1 programs. Football is the number one thing. And so I knew once I got in the environment of the NFL and I had access to all these facilities and stuff, like my ceiling was like, I knew I could make a lot more growth. And that's what I was starting to see at rookie minicamp. And I was really starting to develop. Like, I was like, man, the best days are ahead of me. And so I'm down there for rookie minicamp, rookie workouts for like another week. And then I go back to the academy to graduate. And I was giving a graduation speech at the graduation, presenting Vice President Kamala Harris with a gift. So, like I said, I'm cloud nine right now. Like, just hit the NFL, about to meet the Vice President, about to give a speech at the Naval Academy graduation, about to graduate from the Naval Academy. Like, honestly, like, I mean, you couldn't tell me anything. Like, to me, like, this was the harvest. Like, I'm reaping the harvest.
Yeah.
And I get back to Maryland, and I'm there Monday. It's chill. And then Monday night, I'm at my sponsor family's house, and I get an email notification. And it's from the Commandant of Midshipmen, which is essentially like the Dean of Students. And it's a meeting request for tomorrow. I'm like, like, this is interesting. I'm like, who else is in the meeting? And it's me, my battalion officer, which is like a superior. And then it's this kid that was trying to go play professional baseball in my class, and his battalion officer. So I'm like, okay, you know, graduation's in 4 days or whatever, and the commandant wants to meet with the two kids that are trying to play professional. I was like, this is interesting. And I hit my battalion officer up. I'm like, yo, do you know anything about this? He's like, no. Like, whatever. So I'm like, okay, cool. But I'm uneasy. I'm immediately like uneasy. I'm like,
that would be too.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, what's up with this? And so next day, I go meet with him. It's at the top floor of this newest building at the academy, overlooking whatever. It's a super nice building. We're in the conference room. And he comes in, and he literally gets straight to it. He was like, I called you in here today because the Secretary of Defense has denied your package to delay your commissioning. So you won't be able to go play professional.
I knew it. I knew it. Okay, go ahead.
Like straight up, right? So like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just remember just like staring out the window. I'm literally just sitting there like I couldn't say anything because like you just heard the journey, right? You know what I mean? And you're finally at the top. Like, you're feeling like everything's like sunshine and rainbows, like cool, like I done battled through the adversity or whatever, and then this happens. And I'm like, you know, did he give you a reasoning for it? He said no. I was like, is there any way to appeal it? He's like, no, you're set to commission. And so now I was in a dangerous game. Because in the military, you know, you're taught to follow orders. Point blank, period. But I was like, nah, this ain't one I'm cool with. You know what I mean? But I also knew, like, it was commissioning week, graduation week. I was like, I'm not about to make this about me. Like, I'm not going to really tell anybody about this. So I only told my parents and my agents and, like, some of my close friends. And so I go the rest of that week, and my classmates are still thinking I'm going back to Tampa. So I'm living like a double life. I'm living this life where I know what's going on, like trying to mask my emotions to live in the moment. I also am living this life where people are like, oh, you're back there in Tampa, like this and that. Oh, you like when you going back down, like I'm acting like I'm still living that life. And I'm not. And so I'm still doing interviews on like ESPN, NFL Network, because they're covering like me doing this speech and giving Kamala Harris a gift. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm getting all this publicity. Like NFL's posting me on Instagram. I'm like, man, I feel like a fraud. And so I go through graduation, and I just remember the night before graduation, just being sick to my stomach, like not wanting to get up there to give this speech, like just feeling like I just couldn't find. I was happy to graduate from the academy. I really had no problem with serving either, but it's just the fact of how things played out. Yeah, I was like, this just doesn't feel like the same celebration it was supposed to feel like. And I mean, I got up there and I delivered the speech, and I mean, glory to God, it went well. Like, you wouldn't have known. Like, you wouldn't have known anything was going on with me. And after the speech, I went back to Tampa, grabbed my stuff, went back home. And we were trying to, like, work through the back channels, like, talking to senators and stuff, like, officials we knew to get it reversed, couldn't get nothing. And, like, mandatory minicamp was approaching. And I was getting DMs from reporters, like, hey, what's going on? Like, you're still not down here. At this point, I missed OTAs. And keep in mind, I'm an undrafted free agent. I missed OTAs, I missed workouts, like now I'm about to miss mandatory minicamp. And I just put out a statement basically explaining what's going on. Now, on top of all this, there's a player from the West Point Military Academy, and there's 3 players from Air Force who are doing the same thing I'm doing, except they did not get denied. Right? Oh. Yeah. So I was the only one to get denied.
Okay.
They did not get denied.
Okay.
And so now you're looking at a situation where you have 4 people who are being allowed to do something, and 1 person who's not, right? And so I just put out a statement like detailing like, hey, like this got denied or whatever. Like there's 4 other people doing it. People did it last year. Like same policy. Like I'm not trying to be a pioneer. I'm not trying to be a rebel. I'm literally trying to do the same exact thing that other people have done in the past and that people are doing right now. But for some reason, I got painted as somebody who was trying to get out of his service commitment. And just like this guy that was like, and it was so hard because like on social media, people are saying this and that, this and that. And like I said, my parents always taught me to, do things the right way, do life the right way. Like at the academy, class president, like honor roll student, no honor offenses, no conduct offenses, like clean slate, right? And yet this is still happening to me. And I mean, after I put out the statement, it blew up. Like I was doing interviews like every day, CNN, Fox News, like Good Morning America, like TMZ, everything. And it's getting exhausting though, because I'm on Zoom like this from like 8 a.m. to like 4 p.m., straight interviews, back after back after back after back, answering these same questions over and over and over again. And then I get on social media and people are twisting my words over and over and over again. They're saying things I didn't say over and over again. Like they're like, oh, he's trying to get out of his commitment. Every interview I did, I tried to make sure I said, look, I'm not trying to get out of my commitment. I'm trying to delay it and do my commitment after I do this opportunity that other people are getting awarded, And it took a mental toll. And during that time, like I was working out a little bit, but I wasn't working out like I should have been because I was just like, I was drained. I was drained. And that probably went on for a month. And I knew I had to report to the academy to start working on my like temporary duty assignment like at the end of June. And so after about 3 weeks, I honestly was like, it's curtains. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, I went through all this as curtains. Like, at this point, I'm still trying to figure out what God, I was like, God, I don't know what you was trying to show me, but I was like, yo, like my faith, like I was trying to keep the faith. It was hard. Like I was taking a higher road. It was hard, but like, I was tired. And I remember like the week before I was about to report, I was hanging out with my friends and one of them was like, yo, have you seen Twitter? I was like, nah. And I looked on Twitter and it was the Senator Marco Rubio from Florida had tweeted the article. It was like, I'll be writing the president about this situation. Like, it's unfair, this and that. And like, honestly, at this point, I'm like, cool. Like, that's what's up. like, you know what I'm saying? Like, thank you. I'm very appreciative of it. But at the same time, it's like, yo, like, cool. I got support, you know what I'm saying? But if it's not the people at the top that's not changing it, then whatever. And then the weekend before I was going back to the academy, I got a call from the assistant secretary to the Navy. And it was her assistant. And he was saying, hey, our office would like to meet with you when you get back on Monday at the academy. So I'm like, cool, whatever. Like this probably, at this point, I'm like, this is probably going to be the final declaration of me not being able to play. They're probably going to be mad that I've done all these interviews and brought all this publicity and stuff, like this precedent. I'm like, cool. Like, hit me with it. And I walk in there and she's like, hey, we called you in here because we think we have a loophole to your situation. This is a month later, right? After I've told that there was no way to reverse it or repeal it. So I'm like, cool, what's going on? And so, long story short, I filled out a package to reverse my commission and to get everything re-reviewed and got it submitted. She was like, there's no guarantee, but we'll see what happens. And then after that happened, a week later, I was chilling, got a phone call, and it was from the same guy, the assistant. He was like, hey, be on standby for a phone call from the Secretary of Defense later on about his decision regarding your package. So at this point, I'm like, oh, so snap, cool. And I just tweeted out God's plan with the praying hand. That's it. And literally like 10 minutes after that, a reporter from the Pentagon quoted the tweet. It was like, Secretary of Defense set to reverse decision of blah, 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 blah. I'm like, wait, what? You know what I mean? Now there's people blowing my phone up like, oh, like, this is real. I'm like, yo, I don't know, like, whatever. So I just got off social media until I got the call. And Secretary of Defense called me. Secretary Austin, he called my phone. And we had a conversation. He was like, hey, like, just want to let you know, like, we've cleared the path for you to go play. Like, I think this is a great opportunity, like, whatever, like, all that good stuff. And I was just like, thank you, you know. Kind of felt relieved, but at the same time, it was almost like part of me wishes it didn't happen, because part of me was like, if I don't have to go back down there to Tampa, the last impression everybody has is this guy balling out at rookie minicamp, and he couldn't make the team because the Navy got in the way. Now, that uphill battle that I had was even steeper because now I've missed so much, haven't been training like I was supposed to. Like, it was like, man, odds against me. And not only that, the first time, I was just an undrafted free agent. Nobody really cared about Cameron Kinley. Now, my story was nationwide, right? Like, people were following it. And so I knew people would want updates about, what happened. So I put a lot of external pressures on myself this second go around. And I remember, like, the next day after the Secretary of Defense called me, I got a call from the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and he kind of told me how everything played out. The letter to President Biden actually did work. President Biden found out about the situation. He went to the chairman and was like, hey, let's fix this. And then went all the way down the chain of command. So it was kind of crazy, like, knowing that the president, like, had eyes on my situation. And his office had put out a statement, too, and everything got reversed. But now I was like, I got 2.5 weeks to get ready for an NFL camp. You know what I mean? Like, I had put on some extra pounds. I needed to lose some weight because you got to weigh in at a certain weight. And so, like, nerves are crazy, right? Like, I've been training with, like, some college kids, some high school kids, but now I'm about to go compete against, like, some greats. Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Tom Brady's throwing on the ball. Like, it's about to be real. And I get back down there. I make the weight. So that was a win number 1. I passed the conditioning test. Like, that was a win number 2. But I struggled. I struggled those first couple weeks of camp. And it was very hard on me mentally. Because it's like I could not enjoy the moment because every day I feared I was going to get released. Every day I feared I was going to get cut. Like, I was playing with so much fear. And you cannot afford to do that at that level of confidence. You got to have confidence. Like, that same confidence I had in rookie minicamp is, like, what you got to have to, like, you got to feel like you belong in. Like, this time around, it was like, all I could think about was the fear of getting cut. And then everybody that was like, oh, like, this is a waste of time. Like, he don't need to go play anyway. I'm about to prove all those people right. And that went on for about 2.5 weeks. And I was struggling to find my place and whatnot. Like, and then my sponsor family from Maryland, they were actually down there in Tampa. And they were like, hey, like, we got to give you your graduation gift. Like, you got time to, like, visit or whatever. I was like, yeah, you can come to the hotel. And I'm talking with them. They're like, how's things going? I'm like, I'm not going to lie, it's kind of rough. Like, I'm feeling like I don't belong. Like, every day I'm worried, like, I'm going to get cut. Like, oh, no. I was like, I'm not enjoying the moment. I'm not happy. Like, when I was down there in the spring, like, rookie minicamp, whatever, like, yo, I was living the dream. Like, I couldn't paint a better picture. This time around, though, it's like, man, I feel like I can't breathe every time I got to go to the facility. I'm so nervous, And it sucks because I'm also thinking about the fact that, like, I'm like, man, if I would have never got denied, like, I would have been down here working out, like, OTAs, mandatory minicamp, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just thinking about how different everything could have been. And so I meet with them, and they give me my graduation gift, and it's a John Maxwell Leadership Bible. And I already had a Bible, of course. This was more of a study Bible. But to me, it was more of a bigger symbol of a reminder of where I need to put my energy. I don't need to put my energy in fear and anxiety and worrying about the outside. Like, I need to get my focus back on him, like faith, God, the real reason that I'm here anyways, and, like, the source of my confidence and my strength, because I hadn't been relying on him like I should have been that second go around. Like, I was too worried about approving other people that I lost the approval of God. And so after meeting with them that night, went back to my hotel room, broke down a little bit. And I just kind of, like, I had a come to God moment. Like, all right, God, like, I'm surrendering this to you. Like, let's do it. Like, I know I've already wasted 2.5 weeks down here or whatever. Like, but let's try to make it happen, with what I can. And so after that night, I mean, it was literally like a 180. Like, I got out there the next day, started competing, like, making plays, this and that. Like, confidence was building again. And then the first preseason game came against the Bengals, and I had 5 tackles, like, second most on the team. Like, really didn't give up any big plays. Like, I played pretty solid. I was like, bet, like, I definitely made it another week, because there was, like, first cuts right after the first preseason game. They, like, cut 5 people. I'm like, I'm good. Like, not to talk down on anybody else, but I was like, I know 5 other people, you know what I'm saying, who I could probably outlast. So I'm like, cool. And like, I'm like, they seeing my growth, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're gonna give me another week.
Yeah.
My parents came down there to the game and stuff, little league coaches. So like, it felt good because my parents couldn't really watch me play my last year at Navy because of COVID. And so I'm glad that they got a chance to come see me play in Tampa. You know, got to see their son on the NFL field. So that was like very good. And I remember waking up the next morning. Well, after the game, I remember just going into the locker room, like just feeling very like content. Like I was holding my jersey in my hand, like, man, like I'm here now, right? Like, and like part of me was like, should I keep the jersey? I was like, nah, I keep it another week. Like, it's cool. And then I remember waking up the next morning, just like kind of feeling uneasy, like, you know. I was like, it is what it is. And so I went to brunch with my family and the other family that came down, and they're talking about the game, talking about the growth, talking about the journey, like speaking success into my future, like, oh, you're gonna have such a great career. And I'm taking it in, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't feel right. I feel uneasy. And so after brunch, I get my parents in my truck and I'm taking them to the airport, and we're still talking about it and stuff, and drop them off. And I'm like, all right, I'll see y'all next week. Like, we were playing the Titans down there. They're like, we'll come back. I was like, see you at the game next week. So I give them a hug, kiss them goodbye, and I'm heading back to the team hotel. About 10 minutes into the drive, I get a call from the Buccaneers. And I'm like, hello? Like, it's an off day. I'm like, this is kind of weird. I'm like, hello? Hey, Cam, what's going on? I'm like, nothing much. Like, I just dropped my parents off at the airport, about to go back to the team hotel. And he was like, well, there's no need for you to do that. Like, you're no longer a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. We decided to release you today. And
Serious.
I'm laughing through the pain. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like I can't catch a break type of situation, right? And I'm just silent. You know, he's like, hello? I'm like, yeah, I got you. I'll be there. Hang up. And I'm just like, man, I was like, I'm not gonna let them see me, you know, emotional, see me down. I'm gonna go through their head high. And so I go into the facility. I'm doing the checkout process. I turn in the playbook, go to medical, sign the waivers, and then they hand me a black trash bag. I'm like, what's this for? They're like, you can use it to clean out your locker.
Yeah.
All right, whatever. And so the rookie locker room is across like the field from the other facility. Like, it's all across. So I'm walking across the field. And that's when I start feeling the tears building up in my eyes, because I'm like, this is the last time I'm going to make this walk. And I go in the indoor. I'm the only one in there. And I go to my locker and I look at my locker. And I mean, I just felt spite. I was like, I don't want none of this stuff. And so I grabbed like my cleats and like very few items, and I left the rest of it, which I regret to this day. Obviously, I should call that. But my emotions at the time, I was like, man, I don't want nothing to do with this. And it wasn't even like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's like, I don't want nothing to do with this chapter of my life. Like, I don't want any memories of this right now. And I leave the indoor, go talk to the GM. You know, he gives you the whole good speech of, oh, thank you. Like, so, like, I was lucky to meet you, you know, the whole nine. I'm like, you know, thank you for the opportunity. And I walk out and I get back in my truck and I drive off and I'm going to call my parents. I'm like, hey, I'm on the way. I'm about to come get you. Because I told them after I called them. So after I got the call from Buccaneers, I called my parents and told them what happened. And they thought I was playing. I was like, nah, I wouldn't joke about this. Like, I'm about to go to the facility, get my stuff, and I'm driving back to Memphis today. And they were like, okay, we're going to cancel our flight. You just come pick us up after. And so I'm driving to go get them, and tears are still like building up. At this time, I'm still holding them in. I start playing like my gospel playlist, and the song "Stand" by Donnie McClurkin comes on, and he just says like, "What do you do when you've done all you can, but you still like feel like it's not enough? Like you just stand and stuff." I just remember, man, that song was speaking to me, and like the tears just like floodgates just coming down, because I was like, at that moment, I'm really like, you know, God, like, what's the point? I'm like, what's the point? Like, I keep the faith, you know, I go through all this adversity. What's the point if I'm just going to end up feeling like this? And I pick my parents up, and same thing, like, I'm just like banging on the steering wheel. I'm sick. I'm pissed at this moment, because I'm like, this is stupid. Like y'all told me to live life the right way. Like, that's what I did. And I go through the situation with the Navy, getting denied, and I come back down here, and like, as soon as I start to experience some growth, like I get cut, like I'm cool on this. Like, this is, I'm done with that. And I feel like that the whole way home. And when I get home, like, that's when the isolation hits. and I don't want to be around football, kind of being to myself, like really just spending time at my grandparents' house. It was like a safe space for me, like just playing like chess with my granddad, listening to old school music, just like living in a fairy tale almost. And that's when I got a call from my mentor who works at an alternative school in Memphis. And they deal with kids that have been in like the juvenile system and they're transitioning back into the real world. So they're going through a transition. And she was like, hey, like, I want you to come speak. And I had done like a little bit of speaking in the past. Like most of it was virtual. Of course, I did the graduation speech. But at the time, I'm like, I don't know. She's like, nah, come on. I think your story would be good for them here. I'm like, I'm so disconnected from the world at this point. Like, because I mean, social media, when I got cut, it was blowing up with the articles again, talking about, I got released, this and that. And when I got signed, when I got the reversal, I couldn't even be on my phone. It was blowing up so much. You know what I mean? I'm hearing from people I haven't talked to in like 10 years. When I got cut,
crickets.
So you talk about isolation. Like, it's very few people that were there, and it was rough. Like it's nothing you can do to prepare for it, and like everybody doesn't understand it either. Like some people are like, oh, like at least you got down there, like it was good. And to me, I'm just like, I feel cheated. I feel robbed. Like things didn't play out how they were supposed to play out. But I agreed to go speak to the kids. And I remember walking in there and just seeing a room full of like young African-American men who were hungry. Like I can see a look in their eyes. Like it's somewhere they want to be. They just don't know how to quite, like, they don't know how to get there. Like they want something different in their lives and stuff. And I had some stuff prepared, but I kind of just started like just speaking off the dome. Like I was just like, yo, like, raise your hand here if you want to be rich. And as you expect, everybody raised their hand. So then I put a picture on the screen of me signing like my NFL contract. And I was like, this is a picture of me signing a contract to go play in the NFL for the Buccaneers, 3 year, $2.4 million, whatever it was. I was like, let me tell you this. Like every time I was down, like when I was down there in Tampa for a camp or whatever, I was like, 90% of the days I was down there, like I just wasn't happy. Right. I was like, this childhood dream, like got the money, like clout, all this there, but like I wasn't happy. I was like, there's nothing wrong with wanting money. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be rich. But you're never going to find happiness in life if you put paper over purpose. Right? Like, you got to find your purpose. And when I was down there in Tampa, I felt like I lost sight of my purpose, of like the reason I play the game of football. I don't play the game of football to seek the approval of reporters or people on social media. Like football was always like an act of worship for me to God, for gifting me these abilities. Like it was an opportunity for me to bring more light to him. I felt like I lost sight of that, and I'm just talking to them about the journey. Like I go through the whole journey, everything I just kind of told you. And it's like at that moment it hit me. Like I was standing there in front of them and I was like, I just came to the realization that maybe it's the journey that teaches you a lot about the destination. Like, it's not always about the results and what results you achieve, but it's about who you become in the process and how you choose to relate to the process. And I was like, each one of you have your own journey of life. There's been things that's gone good. There's been things that's gone bad. But at the end of the day, like, that's what makes you who you are. It's not where you are right now. It's not what you've achieved. It's like, like, where is the growth that you make? The value is in that growth. The value is in the purpose. It's not in a position. It wasn't in a position of me being in the NFL. It was in the purpose of me putting faith over fear. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the value was always in the purpose. I just couldn't see that until I took myself out of my own situation and had empathy for the students I was speaking with. Once I removed myself from my own struggles, I saw how it could work for somebody else. And that's identity, right? Like, it's like really learning to identify that purpose. You got to go back and look at the lessons that God has already shown you. And it's at that moment, I realized, like, this is what God had to show me. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't an instantaneous lesson. Like, when I was walking across that field at Army, I just think, I do this all the time. I think back to the fact, what if I would have allowed that to be it? What if I would have allowed that to be it right there? There wouldn't be no book. There wouldn't be no speaking. Like, there wouldn't be no perspective. I just would have went back into my service, right? Just started serving and just would always wonder what if. But the fact that I was willing to go out on a limb and chase this dream that kind of went as planned, kind of didn't go as planned because of circumstances, like it brought me to a revelation that has changed my life forever and has connected me with a purpose that brings me joy and peace that nobody can take away. Like a GM can't take that away from me. Reporters can't take that away from me. Social media can't take it away from me. Like I have a purpose now that I know is God-given that gives me a reason to wake up every morning and to fight through adversity and to go through preparation. Like, and it's such a beautiful thing that I think everybody has the ability to get to if they're just willing to take the time. And so long-winded.
Yeah, no, this was
story.
Listen, I'm living for all of this. This testimony service was great. Okay.
That's the story.
So is all of this in your book Identity?
You just got Identity. You just got the audio book. You just got the audio book. Yeah, you just got the audio book. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's in there. And it's like, I mean, yeah.
Well, I'm sure it's a lot of lessons in there that like you haven't talked about that's in the book that we can put.
Sure.
Listen, I'm so excited to share this podcast and for my audience to hear about it.
I mean, it's crazy. You know, like when you go through difficult things in life, you're always asking like, you know, why me? You know, why is this happening to me? And I talk about this in the introduction. Like the question we always ask is like, God, what are you doing in my life? And I think it's John 13:7, when Jesus says, you know, you don't understand what I'm doing now, but later you will understand. You know? And that's just like, that's the philosophy I take. It's like, it's not about like, oh God, why is this happening to me? It's like, you know, God, just help me understand it. You know, give me the clarity, give me the peace of mind to like understand what you're doing. Like just reveal it to me over time. But I trust you. And
it's all about that trust.
Yeah, I trust you. Like I release this to you. Like, I'm not going to get stressed out about it. Like I'm not going to get anxiety about it. Like people don't worry. Like that stuff comes from the devil. Like worry, stress, fear. That's the devil trying to keep you away from your faith. But in my opinion, that stuff creates more room for faith. You just got to put the faith in there. Right. And like, that's kind of what I'm doing now, you know, still learning, still growing, like still figuring things out for this next chapter, you know, trying to see what's the next move. But I find peace knowing that God's plan will always lead to like, you know, something good. Like it may not be the result that you had in mind, but it's going to give you that growth that you need to continue to build in life.
Absolutely. All right. So I'm so excited for you and your future. In like 15 seconds, can you tell our listeners why they need the book Identity?
Yeah. Because everybody has a story, but sometimes you can't even identify your story until you listen to somebody else's. And I'm real vulnerable with my experiences, the failures, the highs, the lows, the emotions, you know, like I'm real vulnerable with all that in Identity. And the goal is to inspire you to do the same thing for your life, to go back into the past and reflect and identify lessons that make you who you are today so that you stop defining yourself off of results and success and failure, but you define yourself off of internal stuff that nobody can take away. So if you read Identity, I'm 110% sure that by the time you get to the end, you'll definitely feel that way.
Well, sign me up. I can't wait. I'm so excited for you. Is there anything else you want to share with our listeners before we wrap up today?
I think I'm good. I think I talked a lot. I think I talked too much.
Literally, I don't think this interview could have went any other way. You see, I put my phone down. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I was like, damn, I hope I'm not. That's all. I hope I'm not messing it like the flow up. You know.
You did, but it's okay. It's okay. I flowed with you. All right. I was just enjoying the movie.
Yeah. Nah, I'm glad. This has been good. I appreciate you for having me for sure.
Of course. Well, listen, you are always welcome here on the Success Playbook Podcast. Thank you for joining us, Cameron. This was truly a pleasure. And again, we're excited for you.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Yo, Prime members, so check this out. We are here to talk about our favorite thing in the world, and that is Amazon Prime.
That's right. We all have different interests, but there's one thing that brings us together: Prime.
As members ourselves, we found ways to maximize our Prime benefits to get the most out of our passions.
From fast and free shipping, streaming of movies and music, and even exclusive deals and discounts, Prime has it all.
And what's great is that you can use all of these services to elevate your hobbies and interests.
Whether you're a bookworm, a fitness fanatic, or a gaming guru, Prime has something for everyone. I promise you that.
So go ahead, explore and indulge in all that Prime has to offer. We promise you won't be disappointed.
Time to get more out of whatever you're into. Prime. And that's that on that.